The experience of death is something many fear, yet for some, it becomes the gateway to profound spiritual revelations. One individual, during their near-death experience, NDE, encountered a vision of Jesus that left them shaken to their core. What Jesus revealed about the act of prostration, something as simple as bowing down, was so powerful, it reshaped their entire understanding of faith, humility, and the journey ahead. Let's look into this extraordinary story and uncover the deep lessons it holds for all of us. It all began unexpectedly. Mark, an ordinary man with a simple life, suddenly found himself in the throes of death. His heart stopped, and his body lay motionless, but his consciousness remained. A peaceful yet powerful light surrounded him, pulling him out of his earthly form. In this suspended state, Mark was enveloped by a profound sense of calm, as if the very weight of his earthly troubles had been lifted. And then, before he could comprehend what was happening, he found himself in the presence of something divine. Jesus appeared before Mark, radiant and full of love, yet there was a deep seriousness in his gaze. Mark felt an overwhelming sense of awe, as if he was in the very presence of the Creator. But there was no fear, just a quiet understanding that this meeting held a purpose far beyond anything he could grasp. Mark knew this was not just a vision, it was a divine appointment. Without warning, Jesus began to speak. His voice was gentle yet firm, and Mark immediately felt a sense of urgency in his words. Prostration, Jesus said, is the true act of surrender, not just of the body, but of the soul. Mark was confused. He had always thought of prostration as something simple, a physical act of bowing. But what Jesus revealed next would change everything. Jesus explained that the physical act of prostration, bowing before God, is not just a form of humility, but a reflection of the soul's deepest surrender. It symbolizes a total giving up of one's own will in submission to the divine will. Mark saw an image before him, a multitude of people, kneeling in reverence, their hearts open and humble. It was not about the position of their bodies but the condition of their spirits. This act, Mark realized, was far more than a ritual, it was a gateway to divine connection. Jesus continued, revealing that true prostration comes from a place of deep humility. It's not enough to bow in the body alone, he said. One must bow in their heart, mind, and soul. Mark felt a surge of understanding flood through him. He had known the external act of bowing, but he had never truly comprehended its deeper, spiritual significance. Mark saw a vision of individuals in prayer, some kneeling in faith, others simply sitting with bowed heads, each deeply connected to God. Jesus explained that the physical form of prostration was a mere reflection of a deeper truth, humility before the Creator. It wasn't the outward show of submission that mattered, it was the internal surrender of one's ego, desires, and worldly attachments. Mark realized that in prostration, one could experience the deepest form of spiritual communion, allowing the soul to align perfectly with divine will. As Mark stood in awe, Jesus extended an invitation to him, "Come closer, and see the power of a surrendered soul." Mark was drawn toward Jesus, his heart racing with anticipation. As he drew nearer, he saw a scene of heavenly beauty, angels prostrating before God in eternal worship. The sight filled Mark's heart with an indescribable peace, and he felt the weight of his own pride and self-will begin to lift. Jesus explained that the act of prostration wasn't just for moments of prayer, it was a daily practice, a spiritual state of being. "When you bow before me, truly bow your heart," he said. "This is the path to freedom." Mark understood now that true freedom was found not in the pursuit of personal gain or the achievement of earthly desires, but in the complete surrender to God's will. In that moment, Mark made a silent vow to accept this surrender in his life, knowing that it was the key to living in harmony with the divine. The experience wasn't without its challenges. Jesus revealed that for many, the act of prostration was deeply difficult, as it required the submission of one's pride and self-will. Mark saw countless souls struggling with the weight of their own egos, resisting the divine invitation to bow. Jesus shared that many people sought comfort in their independence, but in doing so, they missed the profound peace that came from complete surrender. Mark saw a vision of individuals standing tall in their own strength, unwilling to bow or relinquish control. Their lives were filled with stress, confusion, and a sense of emptiness. Jesus explained that without the practice of prostration, of humbling oneself before God, many would find themselves lost, disconnected from the source of true peace. This realization was both humbling and enlightening for Mark. Jesus then showed Mark a powerful image, a person, humbled and on their knees, praying earnestly. This person was not weak or defeated, rather, they radiated strength, peace, and resilience. Mark realized that surrendering to God did not mean being passive, it meant being open, willing to trust the divine plan and allow God to work through them. Jesus explained that the true strength of a believer comes from their ability to surrender fully to God's will. Your strength is in your vulnerability, he said. It is in your willingness to let go. In this moment, Mark understood that true spiritual power was not about asserting control over the world around him but about aligning himself with the will of God. This realization left him feeling empowered and ready to accept a life of humility and trust. Mark's vision continued, and he saw the world, people rushing around, consumed by their own desires, unaware of the deeper spiritual truths. Jesus spoke again, urging Mark to share the message, tell them that the world's path is not the path to peace. The path to peace is found in surrender, in bowing before me with a pure heart. The urgency in Jesus' words was clear. Mark realized that this wasn't just about his personal journey but about spreading the message to others. He saw countless souls in turmoil, seeking peace in all the wrong places. Jesus reminded him that the invitation to humble oneself before God was open to everyone. The world needed this message now more than ever, a reminder that true peace comes from surrender, not control. As the vision deepened, Mark felt an overwhelming sense of freedom. The chains of earthly desires, struggles, and anxieties seemed to dissolve in the presence of God. Jesus explained that true freedom came from aligning one's life with divine will. When you surrender to me, Jesus said, you are no longer bound by the things of this world. You are free to live in my peace. Mark felt a weight lift from his soul. He had spent so much of his life chasing after success, approval, and comfort, but now he realized that true freedom was found in letting go of those things. The realization was both liberating and humbling. He understood now that true spiritual growth came from living in the moment, trusting God with every aspect of his life. Jesus showed Mark glimpses of eternity, of souls who had surrendered their lives to God and were now living in eternal peace. He explained that the rewards of prostration were not only found in this life but in the life to come. The greatest gift you can give me, Jesus said, is the surrender of your heart. Mark saw a vision of souls basking in eternal light, filled with joy and peace. He understood that their rewards were not just material or temporary, but eternal. The act of prostration, of giving oneself fully to God, was the key to receiving eternal peace and joy. Mark knew that this was the ultimate goal, to live a life of surrender, knowing that the rewards of faith would last forever. The experience came to a close, and Mark found himself back in his earthly body, breathing once again. But he was changed. He had seen the truth, and now it was his mission to live according to it. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Surrender was a daily practice, a conscious choice to let go and trust God. But Mark felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that he was walking the path of true freedom. Jesus had shown him the way, and Mark was determined to follow it. He knew that through humility, faith, and surrender, he could experience a deeper connection to God and live a life of eternal purpose. Mark's near-death experience offers powerful insights into the spiritual act of prostration. It's not just a physical position but a heart posture of surrender to God's will. By accepting humility and letting go of worldly desires, we can find true peace, freedom, and eternal rewards. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more spiritual insights and inspiration. Thank you for watching.